Good evening. My name is Andrew Austin, and welcome to another edition of A Changing Guyana, where the change you seek begins with you. My guest for tonight's show is Lieutenant Colonel Egbert Field, retired of the Guyana Defense Force after joining as an officer cadet in 1972. Colonel Field has been in aviation for over 47 years and began at the tender age of 18 years of age. He's a graduate of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, Florida. There, he obtained his commercial pilot license with instrument and multi engine ratings. In his 23 years at Air Corps, he served as officer in charge, fixed wing, training and check pilot, executive pilot to three presidents spanning 13 years, and was advisor to chiefs of staff on aviation matters. In 1996, he joined Guyana Airways Corporation, where he became the first Guyanese captain of the GAC Boeing 757 aircraft. He was the first operations inspector of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, being responsible for oversight of the aviation industry with inspections of the operations, examinations of pilots, investigations of accidents and incidents. He was also responsible for the certification of the 8 air operators in the Guyana aviation industry at the time. In 2004, he joined the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority as its principal operations inspector. He became the manager of flight operations oversight for the authority in 2007 before rising to the position of director, Flight Safety Department of Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority. He also served as transnational inspector for the Caribbean Aviation Safety and Security Oversight System, CASSOS. In this capacity, he assisted other Caribbean countries with oversight of their operations. He resigned from the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority and returned home to become the Director General of the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority. He has accumulated over 18,000 flight hours and is qualified in a number of aircraft to include the Beach King Air 200, the Skyvan Y-12, the Hawker Siddeley 748, the Russian-made Tupolev 1454, the Airbus 320-321, the Boeing 707, 757, 767, and many others. He's also a certified ICAO instructor, Director General of the GCAA. He sits on the board of the Caribbean Aviation Safety and Security Oversight System. Congratulations on an exceptional aviation career. Wow. Colonel Field, I don't think there are too many people in Guyana that can boast of having such a career in the aviation industry as you can. It's exceptional, and I commend you on it. Um, can you share some of GC Guyana Civil Aviation Authority's rich history with the audience tonight?
Good evening, Andrew, and good evening, listeners. I thank you for inviting me. I must say that the name of your station, Safe Channel 2, is synonymous with the word that is paramount in my life and in the life of the Civil Aviation Authority, which is the word safety. The safety is the key word. The Guyana Civil Aviation Authority, before being named or formed in 2001, was originally the Civil Aviation Department. The Civil Aviation Department overlooked some of the oversight work. She watched over the aviation industry in Guyana because most of the oversight activity was conducted by the UK inspectors. In 2000, the UK decided that they were going to relieve themselves of that part of their duty of dealing with overseas territories. So the Civil Aviation Authority was formed, and ICAO was mandating that states form their own civil aviation authority, which means that the state has the responsibility of oversight for its aviation industry. Our team, or our number one thought at all times is safety, not discounting also security, but safety is paramount in the life of the Civil Aviation Authority.
I see. So, what's the main function of GCAA?
The main function of the GCA is to regulate the aviation industry, is to ensure that the operators, and I would speak of air operators, they conduct their business and the operations in accordance with the rules and regulations and the annexes of the International Civil Aviation Organization, which is ICAO. ICAO is the UN arm that looks at aviation around the world over the 192 states. So the Civil Aviation Authority continues to maintain its vigilance, and also we ensure that individuals in the industry are properly trained and licensed.
I see, I see. Going back to safety, your foresight prevented what could have been one of Guyana's largest aviation disasters. Can you share with us how your decision with Easy Skies prevented that from happening?
That's a sad story when I think about eventually what happened to Easy Sky, the particular aircraft in Cuba. We got a report, or I got a report, about the operation of a particular aircraft. Immediately, I sent my inspectors to conduct inspections on the operations of the aircraft into Tamari, and especially on the takeoff and landing phases. The report, which was brought back to me, it was so detailed. And I want to say that the inspectors of the Civil Aviation Authority are highly trained. Over the past year, we have embarked on a number of training programs for the inspectors. So they are highly trained. So what they brought back, I was able to make an informed decision to suspend the operation of that aircraft. It so happened that eventually, after the suspension, they were unable to rectify some of the deficiencies, so they left. I think months after, I heard that the same aircraft had crashed in Cuba, just taking the lives of 111 individuals. I must say that I thank my inspectors for having done the kind of detailed inspections uh, during their tour of inspection at the airport on that aircraft, thus helping me to really make an informed decision in suspending that operation.
Wow. Um, do you know what the Cuba? Any idea what the Cuban government did with that airline? Is it still in operation?
I doubt it, but the investigation is ongoing at this time. It started immediately after the accident, and I think we will be able to uh, discern exactly what happened to the aircraft and the 111 passengers that crashed after takeoff.
Very sad
Yeah.
story. What would you consider your most important investment in GCAA since you took over there?
The most important investment is in the human resources of the authority. The training, I think, was one of the main elements. You know, you can have bright individuals, but if they're not trained in the specific task, uh, they're just not useful to you. So the training was an important element, ensuring that the individuals who were taken on were individuals with the necessary experience so that the training received the two combined would make them into the kind of inspectors which not only could alleviate or help you to discern things before they happen, but also individuals who would be able to train others. But even though I have a number of inspectors who are well trained, one of the most important ingredients was getting the rest of the staff trained. My I signaled immediately on taking office that each staff member, you could be a cleaner, you could be an accounts clerk, or you can be an inspector. But each individual must do at least one training course a year. When you train individuals, that is when you can really exploit their ability. So uh, the main ingredient for me was training, and I have seen the results of that investment. It was huge. It cost a lot of money, but safety now is assured. In as much as you cannot say that you have dismissed it or that you would discount it completely because accidents can happen, but you try as much as possible to put things in place, systems in place, so as to either predict or to alleviate accidents.
I see, I see. Not so long ago, Aruba was a choice destination for a lot of Guyanese, yours truly
Yeah.
included. Uh, there was an airline Insulair that did direct flights between here and Guyana, and then it ended. What happened, and can we look forward to direct flights again between Georgetown and Aruba, or any place in Guyana and Aruba?
Aruba, beautiful island. As I say, it's the ABC Islands. Uh, yes, we had Insulair flying in between Aruba and here. The, however, the operator Insulair partly had problems with their maintenance. I think it was the uh, US which they decided to ban Insulair or ban their employees or citizens from flying on Insulair because certain maintenance problems were recognized. We and eventually they stopped flying after we also banned them from Guyana or suspended. I should not use the word ban. Suspended their operation. We, however, have an airline flying between Aruba and here. It's Aruba Airlines, and but they mainly carry Cuban passengers. As you're aware, today all Cubans seeking immigrant visas they come to Guyana. That is the mandate or the ruling of the United States. Before they would go to Colombia, but now they have to come to Guyana. So there's lots of traffic between Cuba and Guyana. And not forgetting the trade. There's a trading operation going on between Cuba and Guyana that is really astronomical. Uh, I mean, if you go down Regent Street or Camp Street, you can see the Cubans shopping in the stores. So it's a big trade. Now, what this translates to? This translates to Cubans spending lots of money in Guyana. So the economy benefits from the travels of the Cuban. I think right now we have no less than, if I remember my records, no less than 1,000 Cubans visiting Guyana every week.
Well,
Aruba Airlines, I don't think you can get a ticket on Aruba Airlines because they come from Cuba full. So, and when they return, the Cuban authority mandates that Cubans must travel with their baggage. So every Cuban traveling back to Cuba with Aruba Airlines. They've got to take their baggage with them, so you can't get any space on Aruba Airlines. However, Aruba Airlines, they did, I think it was over the past 3 or 4 weeks, they asked for additional flights. I mean, the traffic is so much. So you may be able to get back to Aruba on Aruban Airlines when they commence the additional flights. But right now, the Cubans
The
have
Cubans have
dominated.
dominated. I see.
Yeah.
Well, looking forward to getting that opportunity again. Uh, how do you see the oil and gas industry affecting Guyana's civil aviation industry?
The oil and gas industry, that's a big challenge for the Civil Aviation Authority. As I always say, from the time I came in, I see a tsunami coming towards us. You see, it's not only the oil and gas industry. We're talking about all the industries, the, the spring off from the oil and gas industry, which will take place. Right now, we have a number of helicopters, must be about 4 helicopters, Bristow helicopters, large helicopters flying between Georgetown and the rigs. The rigs are about 120 something miles from the shore. With the increase of drilling activity, more operators will be coming to Guyana. We are already speaking to about 3 helicopter operators who are seeking approval and what we call foreign air operator certificate to operate off the shores of Guyana. And with that kind of operation, the authority, why I say it is a tsunami coming towards us, the authority has got to build itself into a robust entity in order to conduct the necessary inspections and oversight over these operations. We're speaking of pilots, we're speaking about engineers, we're speaking about the operations of itself, flight dispatchers. So it's a big wave that is really coming. It's one of the challenges that I look at and working feverishly to ensure that we can overcome that. You, as a maritime uh, individual or personnel, you have to ride the wave.
Right.
You have to make sure that you're above. You can't go in between. So that is what the Civil Aviation Authority is is going to do. So the oil and gas industry is really taking off. It's amazing over the past year and a half what has happened to the aviation industry because of the imminent oil 2020 or force oil when it comes in 2020. We're just at the embryonic stage right now. Sometimes I dread to look too far ahead, but I have to be realistic and take off that blinker that I don't want to see. Take it off and just plan in order to face
It's not the
what
inevitable.
is what is coming. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Are you looking at providing or facilitating additional training opportunities for people seeking to get into the industry? Because
We,
I think as a country we don't have certain types of skills that are going to be needed in the near future, oil and gas included, aviation. Are you considering like a school or an academy to get young men and women on board?
very good question. And looking ahead, the authority we have to start from the bottom. At the moment, we have an engineering school producing between 30 and 40 graduates per year. Now, when those engineers leave school, they have to do something. I know right now there are a number of graduates who they've written their exams and they have not been able to to find the type of employment they're looking for in the aviation industry. What the authority is doing, uh, we are looking, as you must have heard the government speaking of local content. So we are embarking in that area. At the moment, when an operator comes to set up his shop in Guyana, the aircraft is foreign registered. The air operator certificate they have is foreign registered. All we do is give a validation to that certificate, ensure that things are in place. What the GCA is embarking on, we are preparing regulations so that when an entity comes to Guyana, you can only operate with a foreign air operator certificate for a period of time. After that, you must apply for a local air operator certificate. What that does, that enables the company to hire local individuals. You see, in the aviation world, things are so specific and so detailed and precise. Engineers and pilots can only work on an aircraft that bears the registration that they have, the registration of the state that they are licensed in. So if you're licensed in Guyana and a foreign registered aircraft comes in, the local licensed pilot or engineer cannot work on that aircraft because it is the registration is not of your state of license.
I see. I see.
By having the companies apply for a local air operator certificate, you can now have that entity employ the locals because Guyana's license would be able to open the doorway for the guy to work on this entity because it is locally registered and has a local certificate. So that is one of the areas we are looking at to ensure that the local pilots and the engineers can get employment in the host of operators who would like to come to Guyana.
Okay, okay. I know you've made several changes, significant changes to the shuttle operations within Guyana. What are some of those changes, and how are those changes benefiting Guyanese?
The shuttle operation was an operation that was a type of operation that crept into the mainstream of air operators, into the way they did business. What I, why I say that, flights are normally conducted either out of Ogle or out of Tamari. Then there came a time when fuel was too expensive to move from Ogle or Tamari. And they realized that the roads like Tomadia or like at Etrenbang, the fuel can come across from the border. They realized that, hey, we can truck an entire, be it 2 trucks or 40 drums or 60 drums down to Madia and then move the fuel from Madia to other locations with aircraft. Now that is what they call the shuttle operation, where they move from a fixed base to outlying areas. It's a special type of operation because it entails the movement of fuel, it entails low level flying, loading and offloading away from base. So it was not properly approved. Like I said, it crept into the type of operation the operators did. What I did after some unfortunate incidents or accidents which took place last year, I decided to suspend the operations until we can regularize the shuttle type of flying. Regularize it means operators had to write manuals with procedures, how it should be done, and they had to demonstrate what they wrote in their manuals. We inspected after. I'm just pre-seeing there were a number of other things to be done. But we were able to, within the space of about 2 months, approve shuttle type operations for individuals so that now they could include it in their certificate as being an approved shuttle operator. And what really happened after that is that you know that you had tackled a problem and trying to enhance safety. I must say that it has been successful. We have not had any incidents in relation to shuttle operations, and I hope this continues. All we can do is remain vigilant and keep our eyes open and not keep not slacken up on the pace of inspections of the operations. But how shuttle operation benefits the average man out in the interior? The cost of goods is cheaper. Rather than fly, be it rice or sugar or fuel, from Ogle to Tamari, I mean from Ogle to an inland location with an aircraft, you truck it in maybe half of the way or three quarters of the way, and then the aircraft takes it the little short part of the journey. So what does that lessens the cost of the transport, which means that the cost of the goods is cheaper to either the miner or the inhabitant in the interior.
Nice, nice. Um, as you're aware, in the U.S., there's several private pilots schools, um, and they help individuals get their private pilot's license, and then they can upgrade to instrument and other types of ratings, so they can hopefully, with one some point in the future, get to commercial uh, flying. Is there such a school in Guyana? Are you seeing the development of such a school in the future, near future?
We had a school in Guyana, flying school. I don't believe it isn't operational right now. I hope that they can come back to the level they were at. But we need to have that kind of training institution in Guyana. You see, it has been forecast by the International Civil Aviation Organization that air traffic would double in the next 10 years, which means we are looking for more pilots, we're looking for more engineers. It is said that the world will need over 500,000 pilots and engineers over the next 10 years. Right now, there are not enough institutions to produce that amount of pilots. So you find some airlines in the US, they have decided to start training their individuals with like a cadetship where the airline takes on the individual and would send the individual out to the flight training academy. So, but in Guyana, we need an institution like that, and the Civil Aviation Authority is willing to certify and approve any entity which would like to embark on flight training, provided they come to us with all the elements in place. We are prepared to conduct the certification and the training of that entity because it's important.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Many are questioning the significant investment made by the Chinese and the current changes we're now seeing at the Chedijagan International Airport. Uh, can you allay the fears of a concerned public that China will not at some time in the near future own our airport?
No, I don't think China will own our airport anytime. Our government would be able to pay whatever the loan is, pay off whatever loan they have given us. I think this is what has happened in certain parts of the world, in Sri Lanka and Pakistan or some other part of the world, where the Chinese moved in and decided to take over the entity uh, which they had loaned money to the government for. The Guyana International Airport, I think, is it's outside of that realm. Why? Because we have it's an extended, we have an expanded airport now. But what is most important is the extended runway we will have. And that extended runway, we are moving from 7,500 feet of runway. And by the time it's opened, it should be, if not later this year or early next year, would be 10,500 feet of runway. Now, that is enough runway for a 747, 787, for an aircraft to land, maybe except
Airbus.
the Airbus 380. So it's with the kind of expansion in the aviation industry and in the economy of Guyana, I can see increased traffic. And increased traffic not only coming from North America, I can see traffic coming all the way from Europe to Guyana because we have the length of runway which would be able and capable of handling any aircraft which wants to fly for the next 10 or 12 hours. It can uplift the type of fuel. So the airport is a viable entity, and I know the government will be able to pay for it, at least when the oil money begins to flow. Uh, I'm not scared about Chinese coming into. That's very far fetched.
I believe that the government understood what they were doing when they
Yeah.
made that decision, and I hope and I trust for our sake that we can pay them off sooner than later. Uh, the aviation industry over the years has predominantly been a male-dominated field. What steps are you taking to increase the number of women in that industry now?
The aviation industry, you're correct, has been male dominated. But I can tell you, I've flown uh, with scores of women as my force officers, or dozens of women as my force officers. And I found that at least 95% of them fly better than their male counterpart. Uh, I haven't only flown with them, but being a check airman, uh, not only here, when I went to Jamaica and as the check airman for Air Jamaica, Jamaica at that time had over 260 pilots and scores of over 20 something women there. And they did well. So don't let anyone tell you that uh, it is a male dominated, maybe male dominated in numbers, but when I talk about expertise, the women can hold their own. We have an open door policy, and I'm hoping that more female, more women get into the aviation industry. We are looking forward. As a matter of fact, we don't select individuals for training, but what we do is encourage the youths uh, to take up aviation. And I tell them and give them the stories, especially the females, about how good they can be alongside their male counterpart, so as to dispel this whole myth that women are not capable of being in the cockpit. I often say I have my one daughter, my eldest, and She's a doctor now. But I often say if I had known before, I would have sent her to be a pilot. Uh, I mean, what it cost me for her to become a doctor, she would be being a pilot two times over. But we encourage the females. In the authority, we have a number of females. In my inspectorate, we have female inspectors. My drones unit, it's a female who is in charge of my drones unit. And because I found her to be very capable and competent, and I know the kind of, of disposition that she can bring to the drones unit. So we encourage females to be a part of the industry.
I see, I see. Oh, you mentioned drones. What type of issues are you dealing with drones? I know everyone now is flying a drone. Um, I know in the U.S. there are several new sets of regulations coming out specifically dealing with drones. Do you foresee that as a challenge here in Guyana in the future? I remember when there was a fire at the prisons. There's actually people with drones actually filming the fire above the fire. So, and I know that had to be pretty high. So I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out besides that, what other type of issues are you foreseeing with drones here in Guyana?
Well, we're faced with issues with individuals, as you said, wanting to fly the drones without the necessary approval. My policy and the policy of the Civil Aviation Authority is not to restrict drones. It's just another part of the aviation industry. It just so happened that it is bursting out, as I say, faster than when airplanes came on the scene, because maybe it is so readily accessible to individuals, and the cost now you can buy a drone for less than $200. So one of the problems is having individuals fly drones without the necessary permits or the approvals, and we are on a constant lookout for that. It isn't a burning issue at the moment because most of the operators they would send in to us to alert us, well, they'll be flying in this area. That's all we want to know. You send, let us know you're flying in this area, flying in that area. But the drone activity is one which not only for the average user, but the commercial use for drones, it's it's astounding what drones do these days. Uh, we get in requests for drones to inspect power lines, for drones to do patrolling of the coastline, uh, to look into areas for building of houses, erosion, soil erosion. It's amazing what I can see us soon getting drones for crop spraying because you have drones of that size. We did put out a directive on the use of drones, and we are now in the process of putting together regulations for drones. My inspectors are researching other areas or other states, how they deal with it. And I've also embarked on sending my inspectors out to these drone seminars because you learn a lot when you go out on either seminars or workshops. What you cannot learn here, you learn out there and you can bring back, and that is what is happening to the aviation industry. But we do not have a serious problem, but there are those one and two items which at times I think kind of bugs my drone unit. We do have to, or one thing, we do have to work with the other agencies, the police department, the customs department, we've got to find a way, a mechanism that we can accelerate the approval process for drones. Because when someone registers the drone with us, we have to send that information to the police so the police can do their background checks, etc. And that process is taken sometimes take as much as 2 weeks. So we have to work on that. And while customs is holding the drone at Tamari, so the individual becomes irritated and he calls the civil aviation, what about my drone? I haven't gotten an approval. So we have got to work. Rome wasn't built in a day. And we are now in the process of really shaping and taking the aviation industry off from where it was to another level. So I'd ask drone operators, bear with us. We are not going to restrict drones. We are not here to stop drone operation, but we are here to make sure that the mechanism runs smoothly. So we we've got to cut down on the approval process, and I'll work with the other agencies for that.
I see, I see. I know you're spearheading a first ever and very important international civil aviation organization air transport meeting here in Guyana between the 19th and the 23rd of November. Can you share the role of ICO with us and why this meeting is such a very important meeting?
The civil aviation of Guyana is proud to be the host of this meeting. It's an ICAO air transport meeting, meaning it is really the International Civil Aviation Organization's meeting, and we are hosting it. In December 2017, uh, while we were visiting Abuja, Nigeria, with the Honorable Minister Ferguson, Annette Ferguson, to receive our certificate, President's Council certificate, the President of ICAO asked the Minister if Guyana would like to host the African Diaspora Conference in conjunction with the Air Transport Management Conference. And she readily accepted. Now, that's a great honor because I don't think Guyana, or I know Guyana has never hosted a meeting of this magnitude, of this level. And being asked to host one means that there must be something the outside world is seeing about Guyana. And I tell you, you travel out to conferences or you meet other states, and every state knows about Guyana now. And this is because of the advancement we have made in aviation and the work my inspectors are doing and the Civil Aviation Authority is doing. That the president of ICAO knows very, very much and very well what Guyana is doing. And which he had said in very commendable remarks just about 2 months ago to the Honorable Minister. This conference is important because it brings together the aviation industry from not only the region but across the Caribbean and from different parts of the world. And this is where they'll sit and we will deliberate and we will have panel discussions on a number of topics. Some of the topics would deal with infrastructure, some will deal with tourism, some will deal with the liberalization of air cargo and passenger flights, some will deal with air services agreement, and we are looking forward to this conference bearing a lot of fruit for Guyana and the region. On the third day, we have the African Diaspora Conference. And that conference is what Guyana and the African continent had been looking forward to for a long time, bridging the two continents. Africa is interested not only in Guyana but in the region, is interested in the diaspora. Because right now, to get to North America or to get to this region, an African has to go to Europe and across to North America and then fly back down. Why? When we can set up our air services agreement and we can set up the infrastructure and the foundation for flights to just cross the Atlantic within 5, 6 hours, either to Guyana or to the rest of the Caribbean. So there's a lot of discussion which will be held during this conference. Some of the countries which will be coming uh, to the meeting, you have Kenya has already confirmed their arrival. Ghana, Sri Lanka, no, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Singapore, Malaysia. A host of countries are coming. And I hope that at the end, Guyana will see the benefits of what this conference was all about. So it is important for us to ensure that the conference is well prepared, that we prepare proper for this conference, and that the content of the conference bear fruits for Guyana and for the rest of the region. CARICOM is very, very much involved. As a matter of fact, when we started planning about 249 days ago, uh, we went to CARICOM, to the Assistant Secretary General, and as soon as I started talking to him, he was so excited. He said, "What can we do to assist Guyana in bringing off this conference?" So the entire region, Jamaica alone is sending a team of 8. We have invited all the ministers of aviation from the Caribbean, and they will be coming in. Ministers from Ghana has already stated their intentions. From Nigeria has already stated their intentions. So it's a high level meeting. At the same time, a lot of technocrats will be there, and I'm excited about the meeting. I must say kudos to my secretariat. I have a small secretariat which is in place, a permanent secretariat, and the logistics to bring off this meeting is, I mean, is to be a part of it to know how tough it is, because you've got to look at the security, the, the transportation, even tours for individuals or the spouses who will accompany individuals or the delegates here. So visas, oh, you name it, but we have all that down to the wire.
I can see that must be a huge economic benefits coming to Guyanese from this conference. I mean, sometimes there are industries that benefit that you don't even think of. So for those of us here, I know that they're going to be doing really well after this conference. Looking around Guyana, I know that we have a few large hotels, but I still don't think we have the capacity
Mhm.
for what's about to hit Guyana. Not just from the aviation side, also from the oil and gas side.
Yeah.
I think that we cannot meet the demands that are coming. What do you feel about that?
Well, to tell you, when he asked us to host this conference, that was the first first problem uh, we had, and I said to my team, "What are we going to do? How are we going?" We started thinking about asking people to, share their homes, bed and breakfast. as we call it. But my logistics team and the hospitality team, they went around and we were able to gather a set of rooms, to block out a set of rooms. We have the Ramada Hotel, the Marriott, the Pegasus. There were about 11 hotels, which which were targeted, and I must say we have enough. We have enough. But in terms of what is coming, I hope Guyanese, the investors, the entrepreneurs, they could take stock and say, look, we need a few more hotels. And I'm sure there are a few at right now on their draft boards, kind of putting down a sketch of a building they would like to turn into a hotel because it's going to be huge.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Because remember, the spring off from this, there's going to be an increase in tourism. I mean, transportation and tourism go hand in hand. Where there's increased transport, there's increased tourism.
Yeah,
So we could expect to see more tourists. And this was one wise thing that the president of ICAO said to us. He said, he didn't only want the conference to be about connectivity. He wanted to be all encompassing. He wanted it to talk about infrastructure, tourism, trade. So that is why the agenda for the program and the program is so diverse, because we'll be discussing all these matters.
so you're hoping to see a few bilateral agreements coming out of this.
Oh yeah, we will be signing a few bilateral agreements at the meeting. We hope to sign. We've already passed through the initial stages and the preliminary stages. We're now at the advanced stage for signing, where the ministers will sign, and that is all prepared. We have Nigeria, we have Ghana, so Tanzania, and I think two other states we're preparing to have the signatures done uh, on the sidebar of the meeting. And remember that these bilaterals, I call them the foundation from which the uh, airlinks would rise. You must have agreements before an airline can say, "Oh, I want to operate to your country." You must have an agreement with that state, outlining maybe how many flights you would be able to entertain, the point of destination. An agreement carries a host of things, but you must have these, and that is what we'll be putting in place.
I see. I see. I know we're having American Airlines. I think they've started or very soon they're going to be starting. Um, what kind of benefit do you see them bringing to Guyana?
American Airlines commenced operation on the 15th of November, which today is the 7th, just about a week away. Uh, there we go. It's increased trade. The oil and gas industry, I can see it benefiting tremendously from that, in the sense that Texas the is the home of oil, is the home or the
Correct.
headquarters
Correct. Correct.
of the oil industry. So with American Airlines coming, I can see that traffic from here to Miami, and Miami connecting to Houston. So there's that big benefit for the oil and gas industry. People don't the workers, the businessmen, they don't have to think, well, how am I going to get home, or how am I going to start um, shuttling my people, my
Correct.
men, or businessmen wanted to come. You just buy a ticket on American out to Houston and you get straight into Guyana. Uh, with American Airlines, and American Airlines is coming, it shows confidence in in not only the aviation industry, but in the economy of Guyana. And at this stage, I'd like to say I'm very grateful and thankful for the support that I get from my two ministers, the Honorable Minister David Patterson and the Honorable Minister Annette Ferguson. Oh, they give the authority tremendous support. I would not have been able to steer this authority in the right direction and in an upward level without their support. And not far behind them is the chairman of the board, the retired Lieutenant Colonel Larry London, and the board of the Civil Aviation Authority. My staff, I cannot ask for better. Staff, tremendous support. Uh, some of my inspectors or my directors supposed to leave home or to leave work at 4:30. They don't know 4:30. They work until the work is done. They leave at 6, 7, 7:30, and I can count on their support. You cannot move an industry and an authority without having that kind of support. It cannot be done singularly. And I must say that I'm blessed. Uh, I have my hand on the steering wheel, steering the ship, but uh, by God, my supporters, my staff, I really bless them.
Well, as you say that, I have to say this, that that is a direct reflection of the leadership. So it goes back to the ministers and to you and to Mr. London and the others who lead by example. I think in most successful organization, people at the bottom follow the leadership they get from the top. So congrats to the people at the top that are leading in that manner. What final piece of information would you like to share with our listening audience tonight before we end this conversation?
What I gave you about the industry and where the authority is moving, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what has really taken place. I must say, over the past 2 years, the development has been tremendous. In the air navigation section, we've introduced the new type of navigational aid, the ADSB, which is the automatic directional uh, beacon. We have moved on in terms of search and rescue. I've put together my search and rescue team, and they are now looking at setting up agreements with various states in the event of search and rescue. The training school in the air navigation services just acquired a brand new simulator, and that helps us to train. But numerous achievements over the past years that not only us, the industry, or us, the authority, we, the authority, recognize, but also the outside world. And I just like to crown it with what the president of ICAO said to the chairman and the honorable minister 3 weeks ago when we met in Brazil. He said he was extremely happy with the direction the aviation was moving in Guyana. He was pleased, and he's looking at Guyana as one of the countries to help and support those other countries which are failing. Now, to hear those commendable remarks from the chief of civil aviation in the world, I must say it was like music to the ears. So, but like I said, it's the achievement I have outlined is just a tip of what has been done for the authority.
I see. I see. Colonel Field, I want to thank you for joining me here tonight for the positive changes you brought to Guyana's aviation industry and for the lives you've saved. We truly appreciate what you do for us, and you have an open invitation to join me here again at this show, schedule permitting, of course. To my fellow Guyanese, thank you again for being part of a changing Guyana, where the change you seek begins with you. I hope you learned a bit more about what's taking place in our changing Guyana. I'm looking forward to having you join me here again on Save TV Channel 2 next Wednesday when I present more information about the changes that are coming to our beautiful country. If you have a question or comment about tonight's show or anything in general, drop us a line at our Facebook page, Ames Guyana. If you are in need of our services, which include maritime and oil and gas consultancy or maritime security, please visit us at 118 Cowan Street in Kingston. Thank you very much for joining us again tonight, and have a wonderful night.